I greet all of you who have joined the webinar today. Thank you for joining us. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, in whatever time zone you are in. It's a privilege to spend an hour with you discussing about certain important value propositions that Disciplined Agile brings through. And also, I would like this to be as interactive as possible. In the question answer session, you are free to ask questions, and I'll try my level best to answer you. And we also can provide you guidance in terms of how to go along with the journey of Disciplined Agile. And in this 1 hour session, I will tell you what Disciplined Agile is all about and how it can add value to you personally and also to the organizations. My name is Abdul Mobeen Khan. I am based out of United Arab Emirates. I have more than 20 years of experience as a practitioner, as a consultant in the project management domain. I have led implementation teams as diverse as multi-million engagements. I also have deployed few award-winning PMOs, project management offices, and I also train on different practices like project management, SAFe, ITIL. I'm an ITIL expert too. I also train on strategy and also on soft skills as and when it's required in the organization, because it's not only the technical side of the game. You also need to gear up from a soft management perspective, wherein you understand the entire organization from a holistic perspective. So this is me in a nutshell. So let's get started. So today we will talk about Disciplined Agile and what value proposition it brings to the organization. First and foremost, we will just go slightly from a higher level perspective and understand what is the nature of an organization, small, medium, big, enterprise, and why does it exist. Organizations, as you can see here, they have a myriad of things going on, multiple processes, interlinked, interdependent. The primary objective of an organization is to create value. And this value is defined, is perceived as a benefit or a usefulness or something which is of importance to the customer. And value, by and large, is translated into monetary equations. Like you have a company is valued on stock market, the company has a net worth of X dollars. That is the value of the company. So value is always perceived as benefits or something which is useful, which is derived out of an engagement. When you work inside the organization, you are helping organization to create value. Now, nature of value will differ. Now, you have specialized organizational capabilities that helped in value creation enablement through services. It can be any kind of service. It can be providing cybersecurity services, service management service, or deploying a project in order to create a product or a service using both traditional and or agile methodology. Now, traditionally, what has been the understanding of value and how value was perceived was that the service provider would deliver a product or a service to the consumer, and The relationship was always monodirectional. It was always the service provider, because the ball was always in his court. He would decide. And based on his capability, based on the service provider's level of technical skills, level of management expertise, they would deliver value to the customer. But it always failed to consider highly complex and interdependent service relationships. Come the world of Agile, some 15 years back, where organizations realized that the value needs to be co-created through an engagement by the service provider, engaging the customer at each level of the work stream. Like if you're engaged with the customer at each touch point, there should be a perception of value being created, perception of value being generated, and that is what we call as collaboration. So from a service provider perspective and from a consumer perspective, it has to be a collaborative effort. So value will always be defined by the client for whom we are working. The client will define, that's what on a project charter, in a traditional project management way or in an agile way, you create a project charter, you upfront define the acceptance criteria of a project. That is what the customer wants to see in terms of a product or a service. And that is the value that you have to derive from the engagement, from that project engagement. And that cannot happen in silo. You have to collaborate with the client in every touch point. And this is the beauty of disciplined agile. Now, as we speak about value, it is always the fulcrum around which a project engagement revolves. And it was more emphasized by the Agile Manifesto some years back, when it was comprehended and understood and evaluated and tested by all the Agile experts. They joined their capabilities together and they framed an Agile Manifesto. And that created a total disruption in the field of project management. Because in a traditional project management setup, it is always plan driven. You plan upfront. There are a lot of things that you do which probably might be construed as a waste if you say it from a lean or agile perspective. So what does this Agile Manifesto augment? It talks about individuals and interactions over processes and tools. It's good to have processes and tools, but they should not overwhelm the engagement. They should not overwhelm the organization. It should be fit for purpose. You should interact with individuals, understand their perspectives, understand the client's perspective, and have tools and processes at a minimalistic level that can add value to the engagement. Now, comprehensive documentation, as we have seen in traditional project management waterfall engagements, there is a sizable amount of work percentage that a project manager estimates in the form of documentation, and you don't have the customer sign off if there is any documentation which is pending or the documentation is not as per the acceptance criteria. And it's really very overwhelming. While as what Agile Manifesto says, the documentation is good so long as you provide a working software, you provide value. And based on that, whatever documentation is required, they might be screenshots, not the narrative. If the solution is working, software is working, it is good enough for the team to accept it and move ahead. And contract negotiation, as we see still today, is a very big thing in traditional setup. So you always spend a lot of time in contract negotiations, procurements, and that eats away the project lifecycle time. What Agile Manifesto states that it has to be collaboratively done between the client and the service provider. There has to be a customer collaboration. As I said, this is where we add value. You know the customer, you know customers' pain points, you exactly know what they want. And then you respond to change as and when you create small iterations in Agile. We'll talk about those iterations. And you seldom follow that upfront plan, which is done in traditional practices. You have an upfront project management plan, and that is the sacred stone for a project. You need to follow that in letter, in spirit. While as Agile Manifesto says, we need to respond to change in a nimble way, in a faster way, so that we can create incremental values at certain points in time. Now, there are few Agile practices available, like Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban, Lean development, extreme programming. And these have been there for quite some time. And when we talk about disciplined agile, that is not new. We have heard about these time and again, but disciplined agile is not new. Now, we talked about traditional versus agile perspective of a project engagement. Now, the traditional project management is plan driven, while as agile is value driven. That's again where all agile practices, they add value. And now we will see how disciplined agile creates more value than other agile practices that are available today. Now, introduction to disciplined agile. Now, disciplined agile has been there for the last 20 years. It became part of PMI in August 2019. Now, what does disciplined agile do? It provides guidance to help organizations choose their way of working. When you say choose their way of working, it's also commonly known as WOW, in a context-sensitive manner. Disciplined Agile is not a framework. Disciplined Agile is a toolkit. It's a toolkit which has a guided approach to selecting from hundreds of lean agile practices. You have multiple agile practices and lean practices. So the disciplined agile is a toolkit that provides you guidance of what to pick and when to pick. Like most of the frameworks, agile frameworks, they are very prescriptive in nature. Now, disciplined agile gives you a guidance of how a team should apply a specific approach. It is very different than the other agile practices. Now, disciplined agile provides for maximizing business value in the form of practices and techniques by optimizing agile teams in the form of different engagements. Now, disciplined agile is an umbrella of all agile practices. Disciplined agile makes the agile landscape and what we use when it uses a perspective of what level of practice has to be used, what can be used at what point in time. The founders of Disciplined Agile, Mark Kleisner Smith, created this Disciplined Agile toolkit and the knowledge, the book of knowledge, which is called WOW. We call it WOW, or we say way of working. You have multiple levels of perspectives, from process blade perspectives. You have different tools, different techniques, different scenarios, different levels of engagements, different life cycles, and you pick and choose from them. It is not prescriptive at all. Now, Disciplined Agile, one thing is very, very unique in Disciplined Agile. It provides a guided approach. When we say guided approach, you have, if you see an analogy of climbing a mountain, you cannot just define the path to the top of the mountain from the base camp. There are multiple base camps, and it depends upon what kind of weather you are encountering, what level of uh, changes you are encountering in terms of the temperature and the level of support you get from these base camps. And then you take it one step at a time. And you are guided by what are called Sherpas. They are the base team experts. They guide you a step at a time. Mountaineering is a difficult task. It's a difficult challenge because the route that you take today may not be available tomorrow because of different weather conditions, landslides, or whatever. Similarly, Disciplined Agile provides you a guided approach. It handholds you. It tells you exactly what to do. Like you don't hit a wall, you don't hit an obstacle. It helps you in each iteration. It helps you to come back and see where did you go wrong and how you can derive value from each engagement, howsoever small or big it is. So Disciplined Agile scales from a small team to an organization or to multiple skill sets inside the organization. The goal of Disciplined Agile is to create business agility. What is business agility? It is the realization of highest business value in a shorter amount of time. You create value in each iteration, and it has to be consistent. There is a discipline, there's a level of governance in each iteration. Governance is a key element in Disciplined Agile. In a shorter amount of time, you generate value consistently, and it has to be sustainable with high quality. Quality is also very important. Now, all agile frameworks, if we see, methods do help, but they're not enough. We hit a roadblock. We end up at something which stifles you, and then you have to go back and find out if it's a large engagement, and if you have multiple work streams in parallel, it really becomes annoying. And agile frameworks, initial learning curve is very tough because agile, it's a mindset. In any kind of agile practice, it's a mindset that really matters. It is a mindset that you have to develop in the organization. Large amount of change in terms of a mindset is required. Over a period of time, things get better, and then we hit the limits because what is called as method prism, because we are following a method. It could be any agile practice. So we are now in this method prism, and we are stifled. Now, agile methods, it's from Refer, the narrative that agile methods 7 to 12% percentage are more productive on average, while as 3 or 5% are more productive on average on scaling frameworks. Now, it was a survey done in 2017. Now, what does Disciplined Agile bring? Disciplined Agile brings in the concept of wow. Now, it doesn't mandate you to adopt a prescriptive framework such as Scrum or SAFe, although it may be a good start. We say start where you are. It may be a good start, but once you start, then you figure out what exactly is required from the engagement. Where do I create value? Which kind of life cycle I adopt? For true business agility, we need to choose our agile way of working, which optimizes for unique solutions. Now, we have seen continuous improvement. We are aware about Kaizen loops and Kaizen frameworks. Now, we talk about continuous improvement, which is Kaizen. We talk about continuous improvement in service management, wherein you have the entire service management platform looking about how many incidents, how can we improve, how many breaches have been there, how the process has to be fixed, how many processes are broken. So that gives you a linear but a dotted curve, because there are so many different dynamics inside the organization where you are handicapped, because again, you're using one kind of prescriptive method. What Disciplined Agile provides a guided continuous improvement, what we call is GCI. Now, if you see here, if you adopt a prescriptive framework, we are stifled. We run parallel to time. There is no value generated after we achieve this peak. The value is constant. Now, from continuous improvement perspective, yes, we use Kaizen for continuous improvement, but then again, we get into that method prism and it again stifles. It's not that concrete. It doesn't give us that kind of value which we expect. While as in Agile, the guided continuous improvement provides a very strong, consistent quality value over a period of time. And this is where Disciplined Agile comes into practice. Now, frameworks are not silver bullets. You cannot have one size fits all. What if the staff is not skilled? Like, you don't have, everyone cannot be skilled on Scrum. You will have the technical team or the Agile team. What if the team that you are engaging with, your business, they are not skilled? What if they don't know what exactly this prescription is all about? What if the prescriptive advice does not suit your organization's context? Like, you need to understand, you need to have enough organizational awareness to see exactly what is the context I'm driving my engagement through. Now, don't you need to be better than simply copying else's approach? Like, in organization, we have used Scrum in last 3 engagements, and it has worked well, and we assume it will work well in future also. So you have Scrum team. Every engagement that comes to this team, they provide the same kind of prescriptive methodology, and then you keep on adopting it and keep on improving it for engagement basis. And then when we ask organizations how do they take care of their agile landscape, they say, oh, we do Scrum. Some organizations, we do SAFe. Okay, is it enough? Does it really add value? Is it that Scrum can be a panacea for all ills? Is SAFe the ultimate cure? The answer is no. There has to be a toolkit. There has to be tools, practices available which can use any kind of framework, pick the best from each framework and provide the most valuable value to the organization based on the organization's context. So context is what matters. This is where we say choosing your wow. You choose your way of working. Now, there are many misconceptions when it comes to a disciplined agile, because it has been there since 2019 in more visibility because of it was taken over by PMI. Now, there are misconceptions. There are two of the most leading misconceptions that are there are it is said that they're not especially for entire enterprises. And again, disciplined agile is very heavyweight. It stifles teams and organizations. Now, disciplined agile is a very sizable body of knowledge, unlike the Scrum body of knowledge, which is only 19 pages, right? But we should not confuse the amount of complexity with guidance. No, disciplined agile in real use enables you to have multiple choices for your teams and organizations. It reduces complexity, and you have multiple strategies to do so. And it gives you a leverage of start where you are. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You might be using a particular framework, a prescriptive framework. You start where you are, and Disciplined Agile helps you to derive the best out of that in that given situation you face at that point in time. And Disciplined Agile always tries to help you make it better. Now, when we say start where you are, you might be stifled in your existing practice, your existing methodology, in your existing practice that you're using. So what Disciplined Agile has done is provides you a basic philosophy of improvement in the way you work, and it requires time and effort based on the situation your team is in and the kind of culture your organization is. That's what we say, context counts. We simply start where we are, and then we do the best in the kind of situation which is there, and we always try to do it better. Right? It comes down finally to have choices. As we see, Scrum is one of the smallest bodies of knowledge, and it cannot adapt itself in an enterprise level. You might have multiple Scrums running in parallel, but when you talk about interdependency, you hit a bottleneck. Now, with Disciplined Agile, the best you may be able to do based on impediments beyond you and your team's ability is to remove the obstacles and start with some process improvement, which you could see in the form of small practices. Now, how is Disciplined Agile tailored? Is always based on pragmatism, like what a team or organizations will realistically be able to do, not that what the prescription demands the team or organization to do. There's not a minimum quality of Disciplined Agile. You have to start getting value from it. You can derive value from the start where you are, you start deriving value. As we said, each small step is a progress towards the future. That's what is guided approach by Disciplined Agile. Now, Disciplined Agile, as we said, is a toolkit. Now, Disciplined Agile toolkit is arranged so that you can find information very easily. If you see the graphical depiction of Disciplined Agile toolkit, it makes sense and it's very practical. Like the foundational area where we start, this is the foundational area, is where we are going to start. And here we'll see guidance for aspects of Disciplined Agile in 4 different views. And those 4 different views are mindset. Remember, Agile is not a methodology, it is a mindset. Then the second aspect is flow, which talks about what kind of life cycle you ought to adopt. Third is people, because that's where the actual collaboration happens. That's where we co-create value. And fourth is the practices. What tools and what practices should I use to arrive at that position? Now, straight from the first 3 foundation areas in the mindset view of Disciplined Agile are principles, promises, and guidelines. The next 3 are the type of flow views which are available. Like, are we doing Agile? Do I need to pick up Agile? Do I need to pick up lean kind of framework, or a serial, or combination of these? Now, in flow, there are 7 different type of life cycles that you can choose from. And this is one of the 7 basic life cycle types, but there are multiple life cycle for teams that you can choose from. 7 are basic. And this is one of the areas which is most significant differentiator with Disciplined Agile. It doesn't talk about Disciplined Agile life cycle. We say we have a flow view wherein you have multiple life cycles to choose from. The last area in foundation is the people view. That's where you define the way of working. The next layer is Disciplined Agile DevOps. It has containers for guidance and the toolkit, as well as other toolkits which cover and represent the hexagon graphics that are shown. Disciplined Agile delivery, security, data management, release management, support, and IT operations. Now, these hexagons are referred to as process blades. They are nothing but logical groupings of information that helps area support development, as well as to apply lean and agile strategies for the work and the value that they provide. The next layer after that is the value stream layer. Now, if you see in the DevOps layer, you can see it is highlighted like security, data management, release management, support. These different practices are part of disciplined DevOps, which you will not see as pronounced in other agile prescriptions. Disciplined Agile is a toolkit, and you can see the multiple work streams that are addressed from a process blade perspective. Now, value streams begin and end with the customer. That's where we co-create value. Most organizations will typically provide multiple value streams to customers. Now, Disciplined Agile has a value stream layer. If you see the lighter hexagons, the lighter ones, they are key value stream management levels. The darker ones support value streams as well as enterprise environments. For the light purple hexagons, they are part of value stream management, portfolio management, and they are also present guidance. Now you can see value streams elaborated. The light hexagons elaborated as portfolio management, product management, and program management. Now, product management focuses on organizing the value streams we offer to customers. Program management provides large team organization in terms of a bigger engagement wherein you have multiple projects, and portfolio management works at the strategic level wherein you define the portfolios of an organization, and from that you then derive your program management and project management life cycles. Now the layer around the outer layer, as it provides guidance in collaborating in an enterprise aware manner. Enterprise aware manner because we say context counts, and it supports both the areas. Now this is another area that we find in Disciplined Agile, where non-software development work can benefit. Like non-software development, we are Disciplined Agile as a toolkit. It is not a software lifecycle prescription. You have not software development, asset management, transformation, finance, vendor management, legal. Herein, this is the key differentiator in Disciplined Agile as a toolkit. Now, what is Disciplined Agile's DNA? Disciplined Agile is unique in its own perspective. It has got multiple work streams. It has got multiple context available within the Disciplined Agile practices, process blades. Now, Disciplined Agile leverages high value, high impact approaches from a variety of other agile lean practices. If you see here, Scrum. it actually extends Scrum's construction focus, because Scrum is a construction methodology. It extends Scrum's construction focus. You can see extreme programming. It's another body of knowledge which Disciplined Agile leverages, and it leverages all the good technical practices that makes up extreme programming. In scaled framework, for large scrums, or even in Spotify, we can see some of the content and guidance from these practices being used in Disciplined Agile. We have Kanban and Lean Startup. We have modeling and agile data, DevOps perspectives, and also PMBOK from PMI, and many more. In addition to these strategies, practices, and techniques from all of these sources, there's a lot more than what can just be represented in a simple graphics like this. But there's a wealth of information that has been created by the thought leaders that formed Disciplined Agile. So it's all about context. It's all about what works when in a fit for purpose perspective. Now, Disciplined Agile has done a difficult work to distill how to connect different agile practices together and understand trade-off. And this is one of the greatest strengths and value propositions of Disciplined Agile. Now, Disciplined Agile, as we saw in the last slide, in the previous slide, Disciplined Agile has 4 views. Now, these 4 views are mindset, flow, practices, and people. A mindset is embodied in principles, promises, and guidelines. And flow, as we saw in our previous slide, that flow represents the dynamic aspects of the team's way of working, what kind of life cycle they will choose. There are multiple life cycles, multiple workflows that you can choose from. And then practices, they provide containers for small strategies, and they provide techniques that teams can use to deliver value. Like it is where you have the advantages and disadvantages of a given practice or technique. You evaluate each practice from an advantage or disadvantage perspective and see what exactly is the best that you can work with. This enables team to make informed decisions while determining their way of working. And finally, we have people. Combined with mindset, this is the largest contributing factor to the overall success of achieving business agility. Like we find guidance, strategies for individuals and interactions for the primary teams, for the scaled up team, and for the entire organization in the people practice. Now we'll briefly talk about these 4 perspectives, and so that we get a fair, good idea exactly what these are. Now, mindset view. This comprises of principles, promises, and guidelines. The principles form the foundations for business agility. Like they're based on lean and flow concepts. Disciplined Agile has 8 principles that form the foundations of mindset view. We have here 8 principles. This is the foundation of the entire mindset view. Now let's briefly see what all these 8 principles talk about. Now in the principle, first principle, context counts. Every person, team, organization is unique in any point, at any point in time. For our way of working, we always have to ensure that what we are doing it should be fit for purpose. We need to recognize the situation we actually face. Our context will never be the same, and we have to make use of better decisions and take out the best approach to deliver value in the engagement. The next principle is choice is good. Now, different context may require different choices. Teams must be empowered to make decisions on how to deliver value. This is the heart of self-organization. in disciplined agile. By having choices that teams can make based on their current context, based on their current practices, and they also will have shared ownership of their process with the client. Now, next is be pragmatic. A pragmatism is a way of working to ensure that what is fit for purpose means the team should have the high level of confidence that their way of working will provide value and they can actually apply it. Pragmatism means you should be able to provide value which can be actually applied. Now, when provided with a prescriptive approach, it might not be the case, but you are always different. Your level of delivery is different in every given context, and you cannot match that context when you use prescriptive approach. But when you use this principle called be pragmatic, so it helps to provide enough confidence to the team because they would see that their way of working is deriving value that they can actually apply. Now, next principle is optimized flow. Teams should be well aligned. They should remain well aligned. Remain well aligned means we should be able to have sustainment. We should be able to improve, and we should be aligned over a period of time. Now, teams must be aware of the flow of value they are producing and what is that value's impact on other teams. We do not want to optimize our localized flow when it may be detriment to the respect of the teams. So we should be looking beyond our siloed contributions into our contribution of the overall flow in our product, which is the value stream or the streams or the product, which is the part of the engagement. Now, organize around products and services. With this principle, we need to organize our product offerings and services of the organization to ensure that we provide value with the highest agility possible to the customer, whether it's an internal organization, internal customer, or an external customer. Now, enterprise awareness is very crucial because disciplined agile helps to focus teams on the long-term and strategic needs of the organization. Right? We look beyond just the needs of individual team. Individual team is just a cog in the wheel. We look beyond that. The team should be doing what's best for the organization, not just what's desired or convenient for them. The last two principles, be awesome and delight customers. Like when teams are empowered to actually be self-organizing and they are trusted to make their choices, to give them leverage to do their way of working, they are often motivated, and then we have shared ownership of the processes and shared ownership of the value which is delivered, and that creates a sense of being awesome, like an awesome organization, awesome team, awesome product. And we delight customers when our work provides value to them via the functionality that they receive from our products and services. How we derive value how we provide value when we co-create the concept of value with the customer. Like by using disciplined agile and by striving to achieve maximizing business agility, we are positioned to rapidly adapt to market and environmental changes because you have choices to make. You can make choices based on the changes in the market and environment, and you can continuously delight your customers based on that. Now, flow view. This is it's so valuable to organizations that it provides you the choice of multiple life cycles, where you might start and where you might evolve to. Like where you start, where you might evolve to. It provides significant value, and how we always can make our process fit for purpose, as well as always be improving what we are doing. Like teams should have an appropriate life cycle that is fit for purpose of their context. The first principle, context matters. Like you should have a life cycle which is appropriate. Now, how many life cycle choices do we have typically available now, right? If you see Scrum, the Scrum life cycle, Scrum has only one life cycle. It's solely focused on construction. The Scrum life cycle uses sprint in a time box for Scrum teams to deliver the next increment, which is potentially shippable, right? Uh, in using Scrum, in using Scrum, your way of working is the very first sprint. The team must deliver at least one backlog item that provides value to the customer. So again, there's a single life cycle that Scrum uses for this approach. Right? We see the scaling frameworks that Scrum approach is used, or the life cycle that SAFe uses. We say typically 50 to 125 team members at a time, and it again boils down to having a single life cycle. In comparison, there are 6 team-based life cycle options with Disciplined Agile. In addition to the team-based life cycle, there is a life cycle at the value stream level, which is called Flex, right? Which is based on the flow for enterprise transformation using lean thinking and process patterns. Like there are also life cycles for non-software development, because Disciplined Agile is a toolkit and it is not a prescriptive methodology. So it also has, you can also leverage Disciplined Agile toolkit for non-software development. Now, as we said, DA Flex it's an approach. It's based on lean thinking, and it improves organizations' ability to achieve business agility, the quick realization of value, sustainability. It works by understanding the workflow and structure of the organization, and it identifies the challenges being incurred in the organization. Like we can see. Here it's DA Flex value stream. You can see that it's an approach. It's based purely on lean thinking. You have this plan, do, study, and act. It's purely on lean thinking. And it helps organizations improve business agility to achieve their business goals, understands what the workflow and structure of the organization is and how it has to be adopted. It also identifies the challenges which are being incurred in the organization in the ideal structure. You can see you can have strategic initiatives at top wherein you define your strategy, your marketing, your governance. Then you have portfolio which cascades down to the project and at the project and program level. Then you have product management level. Disciplined Agile DAD comes in, as a glue here, and it provides the DA Flex strategy for the entire value stream. Then it also helps in leveraging disciplined DevOps, which we saw in the last slide, which helps in release management. Then continuous improvement, again from a lean perspective, and then it also undertakes business operations and realizes value by adjusting and learning with the customer. Could be an internal customer or an external customer. Now we'll go to let's use it. Okay. Practices view. Now we have different life cycles in, as we said, in Agile. I would like to go through that life cycle slide. 1 second. Okay. Here we talk about the life cycles, the different flow view life cycles. Now, if you see, you can, first of all, you can see there's an Agile life cycle, which is based on purely Scrum, practice Scrum construction focus. Then you have continuous delivery Agile life cycle. And you also have a lean life cycle, which supports continuous flow of work. Those time boxes and sprints or iterations can be removed. And when the team members, so in an ideal world, when you have team members, they're pulling up the work. So they're waiting for the sprint to finish and then move on to the next sprint. While as here, the team members are just pulling the next work item and they are going to be working on it, creating a continuous delivery lean lifecycle approach, which is the advanced lean delivery lifecycle. Then we also have exploratory lean lifecycle. This is used for startup or research situations. And lastly, we have the program lifecycle, which enables scaling teams wherever it's appropriate in whichever perspective. There are multiple lean and agile practices in different agile frameworks and industry sources. Now, disciplined agile has simple yet very elegant approach to choose from. Like some of the practices are from industry sources and they are leveraged by disciplined agile. Like we have got, for example, sprint planning. There is a sprint backlog. There is a daily scrum. There are sprint retrospectives. So disciplined agile leverages what we see from scrum way of working because a lot of these things make sense and they really work well. The next thing of the practices is that they are coming out of say extreme programming, architectural spikes, pair programming, open spaces, you name the all kind of practices that are used in industry. And they are disciplined agile as a toolkit can integrate with all of these. They can leverage any of these. And we say, start where you are, what kind of practice you're using. We can start and then grow from there. Now, getting into scaling framework, for example, you have small amount of practices or techniques, and that would be very difficult to manage in a program perspective. Program impediments, or you get scaled, you get stifled at a point in time. That's where disciplined agile comes into practice. Like now, disciplined agile is looking to be able to incorporate what works well, no matter what source of information is coming from. What is your source of work cycle? What is your source of methodology that you're using? Like disciplined agile toolkit is able to incorporate, like for example, it gets things from lean startup, agile modeling, agile data, DevOps, PMIs, PMBOK guide, and much more. So what we see in practice is something like this. Like there's so many questions. Now where do we start? How do teams choose? Like there are so many practices. How do we start? Where do we choose? How do we know what are the advantages and disadvantages of a given practice? What are the trade-offs? How could we know when one practice or technique we have selected is better or worse? We're combining or using it in combination with other practices. So this is where disciplined agile practice views come into place, or process goals. Now, disciplined agile uses a goal-driven approach. Like this is the strategy that disciplined agile uses to help alleviate a prescriptive approach that you must be using, where a team is provided with predetermined approach, which may or may not fit for their context. Like now, process goals are very lightweight and swift way to configure a team's way of working for the next increment. Disciplined Agile has identified goals that are common to most Agile teams through practical experience, feedback, and by using these common goals for teams, there is a particular starting place to work from. There are process options, which are very clear, and we will talk about those process options. Now, process goals, in the practices view, there are also what we call as process goals. Process goals are multiple process areas which teams may select from. There are 21 process goals at the team level, and that can be drilled into multiple process goals. Now, 5 of these address the majority of scaling factors that the teams will face, how to drill down from these process goals, how to form a team, how to explore scope, how to coordinate activities, how to accelerate value delivery, and how to develop testing strategy, and so on. Now, once we use these process plates, goals, now there has to be a point wherein we make a decision, right? We make a decision. So what is the decision point? Like, where are we going to start? Now, each goal should have multiple decision points. There are multiple decision points which you choose from. Like, these decision points are available in order to explore the purpose, explore the usage, and explore exactly what you will be looking at from the scope perspective and delivery perspective. Now you see, now in order to provide a holistic view, there is a process guidance, right? There's a guidance involved way of working wherein we have a guidance of how to explore. For example, what should we choose? Okay. What do we choose and in what combination? There has to be a set of guidance. On the left, you have the explorer space, the process goal, its entirety, and then you have the associated decision points. So you take a decision and then you take that decision for a period of time and see value is derived, then you can come back and have a trade-off, change the decision. This is how DA accomplishes a whole lot of heavy lifting, and unlike those other agile practices. Now, understanding your options you have to understand your options in different contexts, which will lead to better decision making. Now, the final view is the people's view. Now, Disciplined Agile, as I said, believes in providing, believes in fit for purpose proposition. Now, the people view is the roles and responsibilities, how teams are structured. You have delivery teams, you have a product owner, you have an architect owner, which looks at the entire architecture during the entire life cycle of an engagement. You have team members, then you have team leads. And you have team leads, it might be an agile process expert, team owner, team members, and stakeholders. Now, your agile journey. Now, where do I want to go? If I need to embark on an engagement, do I still look for continuous improvement? Don't I go and leverage the guided continuous improvement from Disciplined Agile and see what is fit for purpose, what can be leveraged in what point in time? Now, in summary, Disciplined Agile, as I said, is you make better decisions, and that leads to better outcomes because you have a choice. You have an option of making choices. A Disciplined Agile is a toolkit which provides a view of agile adoption. It provides context, which is always important. It is consistent across teams. It provides guided improvement, continuous improvement. You can just drop us an email here at info@prothoughts.in, and we'll be coming back to you and providing you exactly what you require from a consulting perspective in terms of your own personal needs to gear up on Disciplined Agile or your organization. And thank you, friends, for your questions, and I hope I was able to provide you answers. If you need more information, please drop an email at the email ID which is shown on the screen, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you so much.